So good afternoon, good morning, everyone. Thank you for taking the time to join our session. This is Kaustubh Jagtap here. I'm the Director of Product Marketing at SafeBreach. I wanted to thank each and every one of you to take our time to attend our interactive session. Before we get started, I just a couple of housekeeping items. One, that this session, while it's being recorded, the recording for this session will not be immediately available. The primary reason being that the content that you're seeing, it's exclusive, it's not original content. This is being submitted to a few upcoming prestigious conferences in Europe and Asia and across the world. And publishing the recording right now might directly affect its acceptance. But at any point of time, if you do have questions about these attacks or this information that's being shared here, please feel free to reach out to us directly or ask questions in the Q&A functionality that we'll be more than happy to answer. Just as an FYI, we will have a couple of poll questions during the webinar. So I'll be releasing them. There are only 2 questions. I'll be releasing them during the course of the webinar. Please do share your feedback with us. With that being said, let's go ahead and get started. I'm super excited about today's session. The information that you see here is 100% our original research and was recently actually presented at Black Hat Las Vegas and DEF CON 31 to a tremendous reception. Our presenters, who are a critical part of our SafeBreach Labs team, they've been doing this research for a while, and they recently discovered a few novel attack techniques that can bypass even the most common security controls and execute some crazy malicious actions. I just want to quickly introduce our speakers. Tomer, if you don't mind going to the next slide for a second.
Just a second. Yeah.
I have notes. Oh, perfect. So a quick intro of all our presenters. Tomer Bar, he leads our SafeBreach Labs team. He's a hands-on security researcher with over 20 years of unique cybersecurity experience. His primary interests are in vulnerability research, reverse engineering, and APT research. And he's published several presentations and researches over the years. Or Yair is our security researcher with over 5 years of experience in cybersecurity, whose primary focus area is platform research, including Linux kernel components, as well as Android related vulnerabilities and attacks. Omer Attias is another security researcher on our labs team with over 6 years of experience in cybersecurity, and his research is primarily focused on network research, including Windows internals and Linux kernel components. Shmuel Cohen, our last presenter for the day, he's another researcher on our labs team with a very diverse background, and his primary focus is on vulnerability research. Now, what you're getting to see right now is essentially a combination efforts across our entire SafeBreach Labs team, primarily with these 4 amazing researchers. And so sit back and prepare to be amazed. Over to you, Tomer.
Thank you very much, KJ. So let's talk a little bit about our original attacks. They are developed based on innovative research of mostly 0 days vulnerabilities and next generation threat, all done by SafeBreach. And as KJ said, it was presented at the last Black Hat and DEF CON. And running this attack, we believe, will help you understand your security posture better, and also will help you to validate the leading security control effectiveness, as you can see in the slide, against this level of threats. And this content, of course, is unique and cannot be found elsewhere. This is how it looks like at our platform. So we are going to present 3 research that we researched, and each one of them implement as a scenario in the SafeBreach platform, and each scenario contains several unique attacks. And we are also going to demo this exciting attack using our platform to see how easy it is. So let's start with the first research. And the first research is called Defender Pretender, when Windows Defender updates become a security risk. Our goal in this research was to achieve full takeover on Defender workflow, running as a weak user without admin privileges. So let's start to analyze Defender update process and understand what happens locally during an update. Defender check with the Microsoft Update Center for new updates, and we found out that the updates are returned as a single executable file. The file full name is long, Microsoft Protection Anti-Malware Frontend, so we will refer to it as MPAM from now on. We download this PE file, analyzed it, and found it is a CAB resource. So we manually extracted the resource and got eventually 6 files, 2 executables, MP Engine and MP6tab, and 4 files with VDM extensions. At this point, we didn't know their purposes. When we try to execute the MPM file, we observed that it executed the MP6tab as a child process, so it seems like the stub's role is to initiate the update process. The VDM files are loaded to Defender's main process, as you can see here. So let's investigate a little bit more about these VDM files. The VDM files are actually portable executable files. However, they cannot be executed as they have no code logic at all. So we assume that there are special data files that contain the detection signature. Furthermore, we observe that 2 of them are labeled with the keyword base and the other 2 with the keyword delta, with the main difference being their sizes. The base files are significantly larger than the delta files, so we speculate that this is due to incremental updating for efficiency reason, because you probably don't want to send the entire database file each time you have a small update to update, right? So a quick check reveals that all 6 files are digitally signed by Microsoft, which probably indicates that the update process was designed against tampering. However, let's continue to explore further before reaching a definitive answer to this speculation. If we will be able to modify MP Engine DLL to our own DLL, it will be a game over for Defender, resulting in local privilege escalation, right? So we modified a valid update payload that we have downloaded from the internet and replaced only the original MP Engine DLL with our own fake DLL, even though the DLL was digitally signed by Microsoft and our DLL is not. We then execute the stub executable, and of course this attempt failed. During a kernel debugging, we got this exception that tells us that the DLL is not signed, and this protection is implemented since Defender main process is a protected process, a PPL process, which cannot load unsigned DLLs. But what will happen if we will update Defender using a modified older VDM file? We decided to modify only the file version, making Defender believe it's a newer version, but without modifying the data itself. The modification will turn the VDM to be unsigned, but we decided to give it a shot anyway. For our surprise, the update attempt succeeded. We actually updated an older version, pretending to be a newer version, and most importantly, using unsigned files with a low privilege user. So this was the first clue that something is fishy. But when we try to modify additional random byte in this VDM data itself, and not just the file version, and then execute a second update, we got an error. So we understood it won't be that simple, and we have to learn more about the update process. Then we discovered how the low privilege user process communicates to the high privilege process, and we were able to monitor the execution flow. As you can see, it's pretty long, so we will skip to the interesting part in the load database function, which is called for each VDM file. So now we know for sure that the VDM is indeed the database update file. So let's analyze the database format. As we mentioned, the VDM files is a Windows portable executable file with no code logic, but it includes a resource section. The signature in both the base and the delta files are compressed with zlib, but the zlib magic bytes are absent. By simply adding these two magic bytes and running the command below, it can be decompressed. And guess what? We were very surprised to see that the signatures are not even encrypted. In a brief look over the base file, we could literally see where a signature begins and ends, and probably the actual unique strings Defender searches in order to detect the Conti ransom in this example. So we figure out most of the members of this signature, for example, the threat name, its category, its severity, and so on. And now we can conduct an experiment in order to verify if we can modify it in a more smart way than we did at the beginning of the research when we modified a random byte and was unsuccessful. So we modified the threat name associated with the signature, Conti, and recompressed the VDM file and tried to update Defender using a modified version. Unfortunately, this attempt was also unsuccessful and resulted in unexplained error. We assume that this error is due to a validation mechanism. Omer will speak about the validations.
Hello. So we went back to the drawing board and reverse engineered the update process with the goal of identifying the point where the update failed and why it failed. So let's see. We were focused on debugging of consume input compress function, and the debugging led us to figure out the zlib header, which contains the zlib compressed data of the VDM, and also consists of two vars. The second var suspected to be a CRC of the compressed data, so we tried to calculate the CRC value of the compressed data, but we didn't get the expected value. So maybe this is not the CRC. We tried to locate the point where this value is accessed and discovered it is compared to a variable calculated using an algorithm similar to a CRC calculations. So after searching on Google, we found out that this is a specific CRC algorithm called GEM-CRC, which is calculated by 1 minus the CRC value. After that, we investigated the merge process. The merge takes the base file and the delta simply defines the changes to be made to this base file. We understood that we have to calculate this CRC algorithm on the merge file. But to do that, we need to understand the entire merge process internals and identify the other validations we encountered with. The delta file contains a blob signature type starting with 73, marked in red here. Right after the signature header, we have two numbers which we were not sure about their purpose. So we called them unknown for now, and we will come back to them later on. The rest of the data right after these numbers is actually the actions, which define the actions done by the merge algorithm. After the reverse engineering we made, we identified two actions: copy from delta and copy from base. Copy from delta used to copy size bytes from the delta into the new merge file, and copy from base used to copy size bytes from an offset within the base file into the new merge file. So following our knowledge, we wrote a script that do the merge between the base file and the delta file. And we ran our code and got a merge stream that actually seems like base with signatures, but with some modifications. Here we can see a diff between base signatures to merge signatures. The bytes that marked in yellow are the modified bytes, and the size of the data got bigger. Probably the merge process added some new signatures, right? Here things are starting to reveal a clear image of what's happening. As we said before, we will talk about the unknown numbers. We started to investigate the merge properties like the size of the merge, and we calculated the CRC on the data, and we looked up for correlation to the unknown numbers. And Eureka, we got it. The first number represents the size of the merge data, and the second number is actually the CRC of the merge data. These two numbers are the expected values that Defender compares with. The numbers are actually one more layer of validations. Let's see if now the update will work. So it worked. We managed to update Defender with a fake unsigned database using unprivileged user. Now let's see some demos. We started to look on an intuitive signature type name, friendly file signature. The signature is probably an allow list implementation, probably to reduce false positives. Parsing the friendly file signature type revealed a very long sorted list of hashes. The marked hash in green belongs to Oracle's VirtualBox runtime library. So what will happen if we will replace the hash value of Oracle file with the Mimikatz known hash? Will it be allowed to be executed? So let's see a demo on the platform. So here we can see the platform, and we will try to extract the login information using Mimikatz without our tool and without our attack. We infer that Defender will stop us. So let's see. Now we will run the attack, and we can see in a second that SB simulation has started, and it immediately triggered Windows Defender on Mimikatz, and it immediately deleted this tool. Now we will run this attack with our tool, as you can see, WD Pretender, which is our tool, and we will bypass Defender in order to successfully execute Mimikatz. And not only that, we will extract all the passwords on this machine. So let's see. Here is the stopped attack without our tool execution, and this is the missed attack. And we can see now that this is the plain text passwords. So this is the attack on the platform. Let's continue to the next one. This is how it's look, the same attack behind the sensors. So let's see the tool in action. So now we will try to download Mimikatz again without doing anything. And as accepted, Mimikatz got cached and Defender deleted it. Now we will run WD Pretender with the hash of the Mimikatz we tried to execute. And we will do an update attempt, and we can see the update was successful. And also in the logs, it says that the update successfully executed. And now we will try to download again Mimikatz, and perfect, it's on the disk, and we can run it. And even we even can extract all the passwords on this computer. So this is how it works behind the scenes. So the next demo I will pass to Omer.
citing, right? So let's see another vulnerability. This time we are going to update Defender and tell him that this program cannot be run in DOS mode, which appear in any executable since the 80s on Windows, is malicious. So guess what will happen if we'll do that, right? So let's see the demo. So this is behind the scene. We also have the attack on the platform as well. So we will see that we are replacing the VDM that we generated. We are running as regular user without administrator permissions. We'll run the update. We'll see on the left here it got updated successfully, and we'll wait a few seconds, and we can see that Defender detect something. We can see a long list of DLL and driver files detected as the Emotet malware. You can see that Defender is going crazy. He's even asking us for a restart, but we won't do a restart. Instead, we will scan the drivers directory. We'll wait a few minutes just for demo purposes. If we'll do a restart now, the system won't boot up again, because it cannot run without the drivers. And let's see what was detected as Emotet. See all of the drivers, DLLs in the system. So trust me, we are doing a restart, but it won't help. It's a permanent denial of service and user data loss. So what are the takeaways we got from this research? The first one is trust no one. Even the most reliable security controls may be used as a loophole by adversary. And second, I think it's very important to understand that using digitally signed file doesn't always necessarily mean totally secure. And finally, signature update process of security controls is probably a new possible attack vector, and we believe additional research in this field is very important. So what you can do is like install the patch that Microsoft released. This is the CVE, and we tested the patch, and we think that it's doing the expected fix, so it's good to be patched. Next, we are going to speak about our second research. We called it EDR equals erase data remotely by cooking an unforgettable byte signature dish. So the Defender Pretender vulnerability was awesome, right? But it was limited to only local attack vectors. In this research, we'll explain how we were able to achieve a remote deletion of critical files. Our goal in this research is to be able to confuse EDR product by remotely implanting a malware signature into legit files and making the EDR believe that the legit files are actually malicious. For an analogy, let's say that Defender recognized Taylor Swift as benign. We will try to implant a small malicious mark, and Defender will think that Taylor is actually evil, and Defender will do his best to eliminate it. So our teaser is, what will you say if we can remotely delete your critical files over the internet without any authentication, even if you use different security control or use Windows or Linux fully patched servers? So we will show that this is definitely possible. But we had 3 challenges. The first is that false positives or false alarms are known problems for a long time, and security controls which are installed on hundreds of millions of endpoints are already probably immune to false positive. Moreover, the false positive we are aiming to achieve here are even more rare, since we would like to trigger the byte signature engine, which is considered to be the most trusted layer with the lowest false positive rate. And the third challenge is obvious, how to trigger it from remote. So let's begin. The goal of the step 1 is to find a signature that will trigger automatic deletion when appended to our empty file. We decided to focus first on Windows Defender, the default EDR on Windows. We also used VirusTotal that provide easy hunting capabilities. For example, query for all detected malwares by Microsoft and limit the result by 200 byte size binaries. So we ran the query and got 3,600 results, as you can see above. We download the first sample from VirusTotal and try to see if we can detect it using the Defender agent on the endpoint. And we found that it detected it, so we had a good start. And now we decided to minimize the file to a minimal byte signature that still triggers Defender. So let's go over a simple example to understand our simple technique, basic technique. As we can see in the example, we started with the string XABCY detected signature. We removed the first letter X and wrote the file back to disk to trigger Defender to scan the file again. And we still got a detection. So it means that X is not part of the signature. But when we remove A and wrote it to disk, we got no detection this time. So A is essential part of the signature. Same happened with B and C. When they were removed, the file was not detected, so they are essential too. And finally, we removed the last Y, which was not essential, and the final minimal signature is just ABC. So our next step was to download all the 3,600 malware from our original VT hunting query and develop a first basic tool to automatically extract the minimal signature from each one of them. The script was very basic, just automating the manual process that we described before. But how do we select the best signature for our needs? Since we assume that there are going to be limitation in implanting of the signature in legit files, we had to prioritize the different signature in order to find the best fit. So we believe that alphanumeric signature will have less limitation. We also might have length limitations, so we would like to use very short signatures. We created a DB of malicious signatures, and we can see here that the second signature is only 15 character length and consists of only two types of non-alphanumeric characters, a slash and a curly brackets. So we tried to append it to our own empty file, and it worked. This signature actually caused the deletion of our own file, which includes only this string which triggered Defender. This is the minimal signature. So deleting our own empty file is not interesting at all, but it's a first step. Our next step was to verify that we can manually append this signature to a target legit file and not an empty file. We tried to manually append the same signature in the middle of a non-PE file, but to our surprise, it didn't work. So we had to understand the reason why it failed to detect our signature. We developed additional tool to understand the limitation. The tool tried to embed the same signature in incremental offset from the beginning of the file to its end. We found out that in the case of non-PE file, Defender does not scan the entire file, probably for efficiency reasons. It scans only the first and the last 4,030 bytes. It means that we must append our signatures to those sections in the target file, and if we can do that, we will be able to delete non-PE files automatically. So until this point, we were focused on learning how to locally trigger automatic deletion. Now we should plan how to achieve remote attack vectors. So we needed a way to somehow make a privileged service to write our data to a remote file. The first idea that came into our minds were logs. If we will be able to send an HTTP request with our own signature to a web server, and this web server will log our request, we will be able to trigger the remote defender installed on the web server to delete the log file. But which HTTP field to use? So we look at IIS logs and saw that the user agent field is a long free text string, which is written entirely to a daily single log file of all client requests, not just our client. So this should be the perfect place to include our signature. So Now, Shmuel will demo the first demo.
Thank you. Hey, everyone. Okay, so this is our first demo, and we can see that we have an IIS web server log. It's just a regular log right now, and now we are using our platform in order to execute this attack. This attack is basically going to send a malicious user agent to the web server, causing the malicious string to be written into the log. And as you can see, at the moment that the malicious string was written into the log, Defender jumped on this log, and now it's considered as malicious, although it's just a normal log with malicious string in it. So we can see in the platform that the attack was successfully run, and all the information of the attack can be seen also in the platform. Okay, so this was only one of many examples that we have regarding deleting logs remotely. We can see a list of other attack vectors that we were able to abuse, but due to time limitation, we cannot show all of them. Okay, so now we understand that we can remotely delete logs, but we can achieve even more. Let me ask you a question. What happens to logs in enterprises? Well, as all rivers flow to the sea, all logs flow to a SIEM database. For example, Splunk, which is a central point to monitor, search, and analyze logs. So let's see how we may have a domino effect against Splunk. We cause a security event to be occur on Windows environment, and when the infected Windows event log will be collected by Splunk, it will be added to the Splunk DB, which will cause the deletion of the entire Splunk DB by Defender. So we cause a malicious event log to be written. This will cause Defender to delete entire Splunk DB. And logs are definitely not the only thing that we can attack. Let's see two virtual machines attack vectors done under VMware. We started by taking a look on the vmx file of the guest machine, which is the configuration file of the VM. This file is mandatory for the machine to boot up, and without it, the machine simply cannot boot up. We wanted to check if the guest machine can write data to this file in order to implement a malicious string to it. This will cause the EDR to delete it. We searched for communication originated from the guest machine to the host, and after digging a little bit, we found out that VMware tools provide a tool called RPC tool that allows you to communicate with the host machine, and it can be done from a weak user. One of the things that can be done with RPC tools is set global variables. Some of them are like the guest info.detail.data variable that is presented on the screen. This variable is kept in the vmx file, which is stored in the host machine. So if we set them on the guest machine, it will cause this data to be written in the vmx file on the host machine. And if we set an evil signature to this variable, we may achieve a deletion of the vmx file, which is located outside of the guest machine, and it will cause the machine to be unable to boot again. So we got a success on this. At the moment that we hit enter on the command, you can see, and we got an error message that the vmx file is unavailable anymore, which means that the guest machine cannot boot up. And like you see, after trying restarting this machine, it simply cannot boot up, and we can see this error log. The crown jewels of most organizations are not stored in files, but rather in databases. Let me ask you another question. Can we also delete entire production database over the internet? Well, usually users don't have privileges to directly insert queries into remote database. However, the scenario of a website using a database in a backend is very common. For example, if the website has a form which we can send data to be stored on the DP, like registering a new user. Think like you have a website, you have a form in the website that let new user to be registered. So if the username will be a malicious username and we'll register it, the malicious username will be appended to the database file, and it will be without any authentication needed. Let's see a demo of how we did it. So again, we have now MySQL running on a victim machine, and on another machine, we run our attack. So the attack is basically just inserting lots of malicious usernames into a user's DB. And we can see that just after a few seconds, voila, and we have a defender triggered. Let's see on what he got triggered. So we can see it's the entire database file, the IDB file, which consists all of the important data. And we can also see that the database itself, the service that runs the database, is not available anymore. And even if we try to run it again, and it's just not, he's not able to do it because these files are missing because Defender delete them. So even after we try to restore these files, it simply didn't work. In the same way, we were able to remotely delete MariaDB. In the same way, we were able to delete MariaDB, Postgres, SQLite, and MongoDB on both Linux and Windows environments. Just 1 second. Yeah, sorry, I have some technical issues. Okay, we believe that the 10 attack vectors that we have discovered are just the tip of the iceberg. And regarding cloud attacks, literally the sky is the limit. And since Defender is embedded in multiple critical points in all major cloud vendors, imagine what can be the damage there. We reported to the relevant vendors at the beginning of the year. Microsoft issued a fix to the vulnerability on April, and this is the CVE. The patch fixed some of the attack vectors, but not all of them. Even after the fix, we were able to achieve remote deletion in some attack vectors, but not remote DB deletion, which this one was specifically fixed. We reported Microsoft once again, but this time Microsoft decided that based on the left working attack vectors, it's only a moderate denial of service and may be fixed at a later point. In the other end, Kaspersky did not release the patch, and they plan to mitigate these attacks, but currently all the attack vectors are still possible there. Now let's continue to another great research from Or Yair, and he will present it.
So, hi everyone. I'm going to present this research, which is called OneDrive Double Agent. In this research, I show how I managed to turn OneDrive, the clouded OneDrive, to turn sides and become a ransomware. So, when I started a research, I had the goal of creating a fully undetectable by design ransomware, one that will have a fully legitimate flow for encrypting files. If I would really have such a flow, then I'll probably be able to encrypt all user files and bypass all common ransomware detection methods, while hopefully also being able to make those files impossible to restore. So after thinking about it for a while, I realized that in order to do such a thing, I need to find myself a double agent program. This double agent program, on the one hand, will be considered legitimate for doing these mass file operations that a ransomware does. And on the second hand, I'll be able to influence this program in order to do the file operations that I want without having any traces tracing back to me. So after thinking about it for a while again, I understood that a very good option for such a program would be a local agent of a cloud storage service. That is because these agents usually create a mirrored directory on your local file system, and they synchronize the original files from the cloud storage with their local duplicates in this directory. So by definition, they do mass file operation that is considered legitimate. I specifically focused on OneDrive just because OneDrive was already installed by default on my Windows machine. This is how I got to know OneDrive. So let me tell you a little bit about how Microsoft considers OneDrive. They clearly consider it as an anti-ransomware measure because you can clearly see that they use OneDrive for ransomware data recovery in the Windows security settings. We can see that in order to protect your PC from ransomware, Microsoft recommends to store your important files on OneDrive, and this way you will also have built-in ransomware detection and recovery. And OneDrive is installed on every Windows version starting 2013. So it really sounds promising, but I still had one problem, and that is that, so let me first make something clear. What I want to do here for the purpose of this research is that I wanted, instead of just running a normal ransomware after I get initial access to a target machine, such a ransomware that opens a lot of files and modifies a lot of files, which is a thing that is considered not legitimate and malicious. Instead, after getting initial access to a victim machine, I wanted to do just a few legitimate actions that will trigger OneDrive to do all the bad things for me while it will be considered completely legitimate. But the problem I had is that as far as I knew, OneDrive was meant to synchronize only the files that are located in the local OneDrive sync directory. And I needed OneDrive to be able to modify and encrypt files outside of this directory as well, of course. And I also needed that to be considered legitimate. So I looked it up online and I saw that Microsoft recommends to use symbolic links if you want to synchronize other local paths on your computer. This way, if you create a symbolic link and point it to another local directory on your computer, the files in this directory will be synchronized to the cloud storage as well. For this purpose, I used junctions instead of symlinks, just because there are another type of link that can be created without administrator privileges, and for this purpose they work exactly the same, and they are also considered legitimate to synchronize other local files on your computer. So I just used them instead. So by using junctions, I was able to allow OneDrive servers to modify, create, and delete files on the local computer, on the local victim computer remotely. So OneDrive really seemed like a very good candidate, but I still needed to recruit OneDrive to be my double agent. And to do that, to really control OneDrive, to be able to do what I decide, what I needed to gain is access to the OneDrive account that is linked to the target computer that I'm trying to attack. And the best way to do that after I get initial access is to get access, of course, to the already logged in OneDrive account. I can do that either by stealing the credentials to it somehow or the access token. So the credentials are probably not kept as raw text. and they can be fetched only by a technique such as phishing or something like that. So I just focused on how I can find the access token. And this was the part that I really enjoyed about recruiting OneDrive to be my double agent, because OneDrive was just so eager to help me and was so informative in the first place that it just shared its access token in its logs. And at the start, I just went into OneDrive's logs to see if I can gather some more information about where OneDrive keeps its access token. And to my surprise, I just saw that the token is written in 2 of the logs. So that means that any unprivileged process on the computer can just read OneDrive's logs that are readable with just the current user's permissions, and then have full control over the OneDrive account that is currently logged in. So by now we already have a start for never seen before ransomware attack flow. It basically starts with initial access to a target machine, just like any other ransomware starts with. Then we create junctions to target directories with target files that we want to encrypt. Then all we need to do is read logs, and we find the access token in the logs. We can then use this access token to modify and encrypt files on the OneDrive cloud storage on the cloud, which will later trigger the local OneDrive agent, the OneDrive.exe process on the victim machine, to change those files to be encrypted like we encrypted them in the cloud storage. But that was not enough, because I wanted to run the ransomware on a completely different computer. I didn't want the ransomware to run on the victim machine. So I needed to exfiltrate the access token that I found in the log to the attacker's computer. So all I really needed to do is to use OneDrive as the excellent exfiltration tool that it already is, and upload the file containing the token to the victim's OneDrive account, which means that I'm not communicating with any C2 server. I'm not even communicating with a OneDrive account that belongs to the attacker, but just with the victim's OneDrive account. Then, using OneDrive's features, I share that file with a Microsoft account that belongs to the attacker, and then an email is sent from Microsoft servers to the attacker's email with access to the file that contains the exfiltrated access token. Unfortunately, this required the attacker to have a Microsoft account that is linked to the target, to the email that we share the file with, but we'll get back to that later too. So great. By now, we managed to get access to the victim's OneDrive account, and we can encrypt files or delete files on the cloud storage, which will trigger the local OneDrive process to do the same things. So at this point, we already really have a never seen before cloud-based ransomware that does not even run on the computer itself, does not encrypt any file on the computer itself, and all is done by the OneDrive.exe process. So just as a quick recap again, we start with initial access, just like any other ransomware. Then we do just 2 very legitimate actions, which are creation of links towards target directories to synchronize. Then we just read logs, and by then we are done on the victim machine. All we need to do is to upload a file containing the token to the victim's OneDrive account, share that file with a Microsoft account that belongs to the attacker. The attacker gets the token, and the attacker can start encrypting all the target files on the cloud storage on OneDrive, which will trigger the same files to be changed on the victim machine as well. But I still had one problem, and that is that as part of this flow, files are being uploaded to OneDrive, the target files. And OneDrive has two file recovery features. The first one is file versioning, and the second one is OneDrive's recycle bin. So the recycle bin is pretty much self-explanatory, but the file versioning feature saves the 500 previous versions of each file that was uploaded to OneDrive, and those versions are kept even when files are deleted and then restored from the recycle bin. So the only conclusion for an attacker could be that after finishing to encrypt all the files, all the target files needs to also be deleted from the cloud storage. Then the attacker needs to empty the recycle bin and create all the encrypted files back again to where they were before, just to make it clear that it's a ransomware attack and not a wiper attack. But I was not very optimistic about managing to empty the recycle bin because it really was a security feature. It was an anti-ransomware feature. So I was not optimistic, but I still tried my luck. So I tried first to access the recycle bin from Windows, which just opened the browser. And then I tried to empty the recycle bin from the browser. And what I saw is that I was really right. The HTTP request that was sent to empty the recycle bin was different from all the other requests that was sent for normal functionality of OneDrive. And this time, instead of using an authorization header with an access token, a canary header was sent, and it kept changing between requests. The canary was given to the client side only if a WLSSC cookie was given. This cookie identifies a Microsoft account session, and unfortunately I did not have this cookie, and the only thing that I could do is steal this cookie from the browser's cookie file, which is considered to be highly detectable, and I wanted to be fully undetectable. So I thought about it for a while, and then I understood that OneDrive has other user interfaces as well. And as far as I knew, native apps for mobile don't tend to use cookies. And another thing that I was thinking about is that for the native OneDrive app to open a web browser or a web view to control the recycle bin, that will be considered a very poor experience. So I downloaded the app and I saw that I can really empty the recycle bin from the app itself. And that really increased my suspicions, and I saw that I was actually right. The HTTP request that was sent from the Android app was different from the one sent from the browser, and this time it did use an authorization header with the same access token that I was able to find in the logs. So that means that as an attacker that was able to encrypt files and delete files with all of their version history from the recycle bin, which is an anti-ransomware feature, as an attacker that was able to delete all those files, I was also able to send another HTTP request to empty those files from the recycle bin and delete all the file version history with the very same access. So there was no separation between the normal functionality of deleting those files and the other functionality that also gets rid of all the options for recovery. After seeing that, I wanted to check if there were other shortcuts that were taken on the app as well. So I also tried to share a file with a temporary email address that is not linked to any Microsoft account. And to my surprise, it just worked flawlessly as opposed to how it was in Windows or in the browser, where I was forbidden to share a file with an email address that is not linked to a Microsoft account. So that just improved my attack flow. So the attacker does not need to have a Microsoft account. And this was the HTTP request that I used for that. So all in all, I was able to add another step to the cloud-based ransomware attack flow that also prevents the victim from being able to recover files from OneDrive in any possible way. Okay, so let's get to the demo. So here we can see our product. We can see Process Hacker and our product installed, and also CrowdStrike Falcon installed. We can see that we are running the attack for the OneDrive double agent attacks. We can see that the simulation process started, and now it extracts the token and exfiltrates it. We can see that the simulation also creates dummy files in the documents folder of the target user. Then we encrypt all the files by the OneDrive.exe process. And we can see also the logs of the attack, and we can see that nothing was stopped, and we managed to encrypt all the files, even though CrowdStrike Falcon is installed. And it's important to say that we bypassed many different detection methods of EDRs, which you can widely read about later in blog posts about double drive, which is that ransomware that uses OneDrive. And this is time for Q&A.
Yeah, so in the last can you hear me? Okay.
Yeah.
So in the last hour, we shared 3 qualified Black Hat USA 2023 research and 6 demos. So I hope you find it interesting and exciting as we. And we also shared how you can easily run all of the attacks in SafeBreach platform. So if you have any questions, we will be happy to answer.
For asking questions, please use the Q&A functionality in Zoom webinar.
I think there are 2 questions that asked. You can see on
I don't
chat.
see.
Yeah, in the chat I saw something pop up.
So let's see.
I don't see any.
Maybe you can send it again, the ones that send it. Any new questions? Yeah, we got one.
What was the patch for the double agent?
Okay, or do you want to answer it?
Okay, so basically we bypassed 5 different EDRs. We bypassed multiple detection methods, and I don't know to tell you the exact way that EDRs are now detecting it. That's the responsibility of the EDR vendors, but we responsibly disclosed all the bypasses to all the EDR vendors that we bypassed, and we also validated that with the current attack flow, none of them fail to recognize the attack.
We also contacted Microsoft in a responsible disclosure process, and they fixed some of the things that we found. For example, they don't save the token anymore in log files as far as we know. Okay, second question. When will the slides and recording be shared? if they will be shared. So yeah, they will be shared. We don't have an exact date, but we assume that they will be released in the near future for the next couple of weeks. And this is, of course, a part of our playbook, which includes more than 25,000 different attacks. Okay, if there are no questions, I think we can wrap it up.
Yep, perfect. Thank you so much for all our amazing presenters from SafeBreach Labs team, and thank you to all the attendees who stayed through the entire presentation. You guys got a glimpse of the entire original attack research that our team has worked hard over the last 6+ months on this. That being said, thank you again, everyone. Have a wonderful rest of the day and take care.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you.